on media. This is Coming Out Stories. It's a podcast about one of the most important conversations of your life. I'm Emma Goswell. Time now to hear from comedian Stephen Bailey. He said he kissed his best friend at a school party. This interview took place in an actors' club in Soho. You may hear a couple of glasses and ice cubes clinking in the background.
Hi, I'm Stephen Bailey, and I'm a comedian and dick joke connoisseur.
Is that on your CV?
Yeah, it's on my bio.
Yeah,
It also says I love a conspiracy theory with a cucumber and a celebrity involved.
Well, hopefully we might get onto that later. Anyway, tell us about the first time you sort of questioned your sexuality and thought, I might not be straight.
I remember just being in PE class when I was at school, like 13, 14, and just thinking, like, the locker room was the best room ever, like, the change. I just, like, looked at the boys and I was like, they're all so great. And I didn't know at the time any of it because I was so young. So I was like, these guys they're so beautiful and they're like Adonises. And there was this guy called Daniel who was like the roughest kid in school. And I really fancied him, even though if he would have known, he would have beat me up probably.
So you never articulated anything?
No, never, not there. But I don't think as well. I feel like when I was like 13, 14, like that was like 10 years ago now. No, 20 years ago. I wish it was 10 years ago. It was 20 years ago. And I don't think the conversation was as prevalent as it is now. So it wasn't like around and you didn't really see gay people, or I didn't anyway, on the estate. So I was like, I don't think I really associated what it all was. And I think that was a big thing for me at the time was I never had like the shame some people have, or I never even really had the fear. I just didn't know what it was.
So when was the first time you realised this is what being gay is and I am gay?
So I've got two older cousins and they're both gay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so when they kind of came out, then I was like, this is making so much more sense to me, because I knew I fancied boys, I knew that, but I didn't know anything else what that meant. And then actually, so when those two came out, it kind of like, I guess, paved the way for me.
So when was the first time you sort of did anything about it? You said this was when you were sort of 14, that you were sort of looking at the other boys in the locker room, but then when did you actually do anything about it?
So I think it was when I was like 16 and I was at college, and me and this guy became friends like really early on, met in German class, and we just hit it off straight away, and became friends. We had the same friendship social group, and there was always just like such a chemistry and a connection. We were like friends for 6 months, and then this one night, like, we just kissed at a house party. I don't even know how it came about. I don't know where the bravery came from, but it just came about, and then I was like, okay, this is making plenty of sense.
Did you kiss him or he kiss you?
It was just kind of like we were just at a house party, had a few drinks, like on the sofa next to each other, just really close and just getting closer, and just knew, like, I think we both went for it.
Presumably you're in front of people there then, so you're kind of coming out by the fact of what you're doing
Yeah.
without saying any words.
Do you know, you're at that stage where everyone's experimenting, everyone, like, especially girls. Girls really do kiss other girls a lot, or they did in my social group.
Not so much in my school, sadly.
Oh, really? So, like, at our college, they were all, like, kissing each other, really experimenting. Like, so, like, two of my friends fancied the same boy, so to get him, they kissed each other.
Really?
Yeah. I shan't say their names, 'cause I'm still friends with them. But they did that, and then it didn't work out that way for them, because it really pissed him off. He was like, I thought you liked me, not each other. And they were like, yeah, we do. Like, it really confused him. But I think it wasn't that one, it was the second kiss that, like, mattered, because that's when he, like, came over to my house, and it was like, are we talking about this? Are we not talking about this? And we didn't talk about it, we just hung out like normal, and then we kissed again.
But on that initial kiss then, did people see you? Did people talk about it? The people were just like, oh, whatever, were they?
I think everyone just thought we were being, like, 16-year-old drunk boys, like, fannying around. I don't really think they...
Or not fannying around.
Or not fannying around. No fannies were involved in the making of this story. But yeah, I don't think anyone gave it a second thought. I think they thought, oh, it'll just be a kiss, and then tomorrow, won't we all laugh at them? Yeah.
So then what happened when you finally did have that conversation with him and he came round to your house for the first date, I guess, as it was?
I don't know. So I think he came around just like normal friendship, and then we had a kiss, and then we didn't have that conversation. After that one, we kissed, and other stuff happened on the second time. And then I remember it so clearly because it was a Friday, and I always remember it because it was the day the last ever episode of Friends aired on Channel 4 for the first time. Ooh. And that's how I remember it. And then he didn't speak to me for the whole weekend. And I was like, oh, like with me, it triggered something where it's like, oh, this is you. Like, this is you. And this is who you like and this is who you're supposed to be with. Whereas with him, I think he shat himself. And then even on the Monday in college, he wasn't like rude, he was just a bit off. And then by the end of the week, it was like, we're gonna give this a go. Like, there was such a chemistry. I've only had it twice with people I've been out with. I think sometimes it's why I'm such a romanticist is because I really believe in, like, the chemistry now. Because 2 times, and they were the best relationships, they were the easiest because they were just built on, like, friendship and a spark and chemistry and all that.
So you did give it a go and you did become boyfriends?
Yeah, for, like, 3 years.
Wow.
And then he went to the Navy, so we broke up.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
No.
But because you were out, you're obviously out at college then, were you? Did you start telling friends, this is me, I'm dating a boy?
Yeah, but I never really did it in... I always joke that I should still probably come out, because I've never officially come out. The way I did it was because I was lucky enough to have a boyfriend then. So I'd be like, this is my boyfriend. It was almost like the introduction of him was how I came out to people. Or with our college friends, for example, we just walked in one day holding hands and everyone was like, yeah, we knew before you fucking knew. And so there was no real conversation to be had.
It's interesting, isn't it? I spoke to a lot of people who've said, actually it's a lot harder to come out when you haven't got a partner because it's just, you're just talking about feelings that you've never acted upon, actually, and there's a lot more for people to question you on. So it's probably easier in a way. Would you agree then, to come out if you have got a boyfriend, you can just say, here's my boyfriend?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't have the other experience, so I don't know, but I didn't find it difficult, and I know some people really struggle with it, but even like my family, and I was lucky because obviously with my family I had 2 male cousins ahead of me do it, and so I knew everyone was all right with them. And obviously with me, I mean, it was so obvious it was coming. I think I was probably the last one to catch on. I was like, oh, I know what this means. So even my parents had just walked in and was like, Mum, Dad, this is my boyfriend Matt, I'm just going to get changed, then we're going to go to Trafford Centre. And that was it.
And that was seriously it?
Done.
So you never had to articulate the words, Mum, Dad, I'm gay?
No. I don't think I've ever said that. Ever.
Did they say anything to you?
So I really then threw this guy under the bus and I went and got in the shower and left him with my parents.
Oh, nice one, Stephen.
Yeah, it was really great. And then I come down afterwards, they were just getting on swimmingly, and my dad was like, Stephen, he does so much. Like, why can't you be more like him? And that was it. So it was really easy, really lucky.
So none of them ever had a conversation with you, like, be careful, wear a condom, or anything in terms of looking out for your future, or...
No, nothing like.
No?
But they've not spoke to my sister, who's straight, about sex either.
Okay.
I think they're just a bit like, hear no evil, see no evil.
Very, very British.
Yeah, very British about it. Sex doesn't exist. And then they come and see my stand-up shows, and I'm like, oh, look at this guy's dick, and you could just see their faces going like, oh my god.
Do they? Do they come and watch you?
Yeah, they never miss a show. So they come every time I do a tour. They come in Manchester. And they always come to, like, big ones. So they came to, like, when I opened for Catherine Ryan in London. They came to my Soho Theatre run. Like, then they don't come everywhere on tour, but they'll come to the Fringe. They'll come to the Manchester ones.
And do you ever tone it down and think, I can't talk about sucking a man's cock in front of my parents?
No, I turn it up.
Do you?
Yeah, I'd go worse. And then I acknowledge that they're in.
Why?
Because I think it's funny.
Do they ever say to you, Stephen, tone it down?
No, they really like being part of it. I mean, when they came to Soho Theatre afterwards, because I do talk about them a lot in my show, and in my last show, my mum, there was a video at the start of the show, which was my mum introducing, and we do a questionnaire with her. So I do a questionnaire being like, Mum, what do you think felching is? And she's like, is that like the reverse end of belching? It's just so funny. So it's like, I had to put all that in. I was like, Mum, what do you think fisting is? And she went, I would have said it's something to do with fighting, but knowing you, it's probably something rude. Like that. So, but like at the Soho Theatre show, because they'd seen them there, afterwards everyone was asking for their bloody pictures, so they love it.
Oh. So really, the education's gone the other way around. You've had to educate your parents about gay sex.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I would hate for my dad to talk to me about anal, because then it's like he's done that with my mum, and I don't need to know that.
I've got weird images in my head now.
Me too.
Oh, but I'm guessing, a lot of people do have issues coming out at work, but if you're a comedian, you haven't really got anyone to come out to, have you, other than big audiences?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you walk on stage and you are who you are. Like, there's no hiding it anyway, and so I don't have to. And I think 'cause by the time I started comedy, I was 25, so I was already, like, well into it, like, well into being gay. But, no, I never really had to. And because I'd had the boyfriend at 16, like, I've always been gay whilst I was old enough to have jobs. So, like, I came out and then had my first job, so part-time. So you go in being like, my boyfriend.
So even like normal jobs that normal people have
Yeah.
before you became a stand-up comedian, you were fine, you were always out.
Yes, I worked at like Sainsbury's. I mean, and everyone's there. It's like a gay or an old woman. So I always think that about Sainsbury's as well. Like it was always worded so well around me because obviously people would be like, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And then people always like, "Do you have a partner?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's called Matt."
When you first started doing comedy, though, did you ever think, oh, should I go there and talk about being gay? Because it's quite a lot to put yourself on a stage in front of a big group of people and talk about your sexuality.
Yeah, I mean, there's times when you worry because I think I probably was very naive about it actually in the beginning because I've never had a bad experience with it, and families accepted, work colleagues have accepted, friends have accepted, so I've never had that negative. That I never really thought, especially early on, that people had bad experiences with it because my cousins had a fine experience, I had a fine experience. So I think, especially the ages of, like, say, 16 to 21, I definitely probably didn't think people had issues with it, which is a nice way to be, I guess what we're aiming for. But it was only when I got to, like, was doing stand-up and travelling with it a bit more, I was like, oh, no, like, I'm going to go to Hull and talk about... And you can see people's faces sometimes have to, like, adjust into it, going, hold on, he's a boy, talking about... like sleeping with a boy, that makes no sense. Like you can see their faces, like, and then they jump on. But I must say,
I'm sure they've got gays in Hull.
yeah, definitely. Well, it was the city of culture, babe. I don't know. I think there are obviously homophobes and bigots and whatever, but I don't know. I've just been so far very lucky with it. I've only had a bad reaction once, and it wasn't even like a bad reaction. It was a crazy, weird heckle reaction. So I was like, "Where are my gays?" And this man at the back of the room just went, dead, like they should be. And I was like...
What?
Yeah, that was it. And that was in Edinburgh. And I was like, but that's the only time I've had it.
Surely he got some stick from the rest of the audience, right?
No, that was the worst thing. And that is the thing. We don't take a stand. We do not take a stand in this world. And no one did it. And I was like, I'll deal with this, sir. So I've got to deal with him and win you all back over because you all feel uncomfortable now. You lot feel uncomfortable.
And then I've got to just show and be funny.
Yeah. So, but that's the only time, which in 8 years isn't terrible. I mean, it shouldn't happen once, but in 8 years, I was like, oh, that's not bad.
And of course, now you do a lot of TV as well. I'm guessing that's quite an accepting world to work in.
Very. I mean, it's run by the gays. Sorry, the LGBTQ+. And even there, like, I've never had... Like, people have said to me online, like, well, you're not funny. But I've never had anyone... be homophobic to me about it, which you would expect. And the only time I've had that again was when I did Celebs on the Farm, and I was hosting it, and then we had Louis Spence and Bobby Norris as contestants on it. And this man just tweeted about Stephen Bailey, Louis Spence, and Bobby Norris. I'm not watching this shit then. And I was like, well, that's homophobe, isn't it? Like,
just picked out the three gay men and then called the programme shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, you're filming Big Brother's Bit on the Side with Ryland at the moment.
Yeah.
But that's fun.
That's really fun. What is nice to me is like when you go, because we're so box ticky, aren't we, at the minute? We love a label. We love to make sure we've got one of everything. And what I like about that show is there's like 3 of every minority. Do you know what I mean? There's less straight white men on it, and I love it, and it works really well. Rylan and I are probably similar personalities, both quite camp, bold, whatever the words are. But it shows that, okay, just because you're the camp gay man, we're not all the same. Like, me and him couldn't be more different, even though tonally we're similar. Yeah,
and it also shows, doesn't it, that there's certainly no barrier to success, certainly in TV and showbiz world.
No, I think if you're good and you keep going and you want it, you will get it. And everyone's journey's different. I have a friend it was London Hughes. We've been on the circuit together for ages. And we went through a time last year where we're like, what is happening? Like, why is it all so slow? And then she got Celebs Go Dating, I got Celebs on the Farm, and then neither of us have stopped working since. And it's just like, oh, isn't it silly? And it's like, mine was a presenting job, hers was appearing in a reality show. It's just everyone's journey's different, I think.
Okay, well, your journey was quite easy in terms of coming out, and you admit that. So would you have any advice for people that are sort of question their sexuality and terrified because maybe their families aren't as accepting as yours, or their workplaces aren't as accepting as the showbiz world,
Yeah, I don't know, maybe this is too optimistic and hopeful and putting too much faith in humanity. But I think people are better than we give them credit for, and I think half the time... I mean, I don't know because I've not had the bad experience, but I would say I was just me, and I met this guy, and I fell proper, like, head over heels in love with him, And so I was like, oh, well, that's me, that's my life. And so then I was just like, this is my boyfriend. I didn't worry about it, and then therefore I think maybe me not worrying about it made other people not worry about it.
You've got to have a certain confidence, haven't you,
Yeah.
to do it, and you've got to be confident in yourself and your own beliefs.
And I understand why it's not. I mean, LGBT is still such, or sometimes feels like it's still such a taboo subject in some way where it's like people are still scared to come out and ask, and like all this stuff with that stupid cake, those bakers that wouldn't make the cake and stuff. So there are still idiots in the
Asher's
world.
Bakery of Belfast saga.
So ridiculous. So I understand why people are scared, but I would also say most of the time people are surrounded by like-minded people. You've been raised by your family. You've chosen your friends. So I'm pretty sure that the people you've surrounded yourself around, A, love you, and B, are like-minded like you. So especially your friends, because you choose them. So I reckon everyone will be accepting. So I think as long as once you've found a way to be comfortable with yourself, then everyone else will.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully. And that's the hardest thing to get to, isn't it? Especially like as an awkward teenager. I mean, you've got hair sprouting in a place you don't want hair to sprout of. I mean, I remember getting an erection because of the vibrations on a bus when I was young. So it's like trying to figure out, who you are. But I think just take your time and no one's rushed. And also it's no one else's business until you've figured it out.
Thank you, Stephen Bailey.
Thanks for having me. That was fun. I'm so grown up.
Oh, I've got pictures of you on a bus now as a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, literally, me and my friend Ben, he's a heterosexual, we talk about it all the time. But like, do you remember when we used to get... And he said it to me. He was like, did you ever? And I was like, I'm really glad you said that because, yeah, I did do that.
Never heard of that, but yeah, thank you for putting that image in my brain.
It's a thing.
A big thank you to Stephen Bailey. I'm not sure what his next project is, but I'm sure he'll pop up on the telly box before long. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. We'd also love to hear from you on Twitter. You can find us there at Come Out Stories. I'm Emma Goswell, and Coming Out Stories is a What Goes On media production. In the next episode, you're going to hear from Lucia. She's a lesbian mum who adopted a child at the age of 35. Her own mum had the most hilarious response to a child coming out as gay.
She was there with all the shopping bags and stuff, and I said, I've got some news for you. So she said, oh, what's that? So I said, I've asked a woman out on a date. I'm dating a woman. And her response was, oh, look, B&M's have got discount on flapjacks.